to see you. You braved the gray skies to be here much for celebrating the month of November with us. Bretta, do I need the clicker up here, or do you want to run it for me, or Randy? Okay, if you could just go to the next slide. I'm Catherine Ambrose. Welcome. Who's new this month? Who's brand new, first time to come? Welcome. We have new people every month. Who's been coming for 4 years? Awesome. We have a lot of regulars. It's so great to see you. Are you excited about Thanksgiving? Yeah. Okay. So I'm Catherine Ambrose, and this is Empowered Senior. We're a nonprofit. My husband, Randy, back there, Randy, wave. Randy and I and our daughter, Jillian, out there are realtors, and our focus is in helping seniors with all their housing needs, and our nonprofit does senior move management. So we can help teach you how to do your own downsizing, or we can help you with it. And, all right, we're having a little challenge back there. We're going to have Veterans Day Friday. And we always start with the Pledge of Allegiance. And so if we can have any veterans in the room come up to the front that might like to and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, that would be fantastic. There's more than just you. You're good. Come on up. Okay. She said, oh, come on. See, there are several. Thank you so much for coming up. Okay, if everyone would please stand. Hi, Floyd. Okay. All right. Would you like to lead us? Okay. We're definitely having some. Okay. Maybe I should grab the clicker. It's really bad if I have to help with the tech. Is there a clicker back here? Okay. Oh, no. Are you going to be able to play it? Okay, that's okay. If you Okay, can you show the Veterans Day slide real quick? So is this thing working? This is. All right, this was the slide you missed. Somebody went to a lot of trouble to make that, so I thought I'd show it to you. So Veterans Day is Friday. All right. I think we're caught up. All right. So the 80th anniversary of D-Day in Paris and Normandy is coming up in June of 2024. So that's not this coming summer, but the summer after. And if you'd like a special legacy event, special trip of a lifetime, we would love to share this trip with you. It's something you can bring your friends and family on. And we're going to try to run a little video that we made on our own with no professional TV people. So we'll see if they can get it to run. They said that Botanic is having trouble with their computer back there today. If we can't run it, we're just going to skip the video. Mindy says, no, you have to show it. We'll try. All right. Well, maybe we'll try it at the end if we can't get it going. It might be better this way. I don't know. Okay, good enough. We tried. We're skipping it. Okay. Larry Hatteberg's going to talk about technology today. I think we should hire him. Okay, next slide. Okay, it's stuck. All right. You know what? We're just going to roll with it. Isn't that what life is about? Just kind of rolling with it. That's what we're going to do. So today we have a local media icon. He might not like me saying that, but we're so honored to have Larry Hatteberg here to be our speaker today. And then in a little while, we'll have Greg Dane with Humana come up as well. He has some interesting things to talk about regarding longevity and how to live your best life. So I think we're going to have a nice, uplifting, legacy themed Thanksgiving event today. So, Larry, if you would come on up, if everyone would please welcome Larry Hatteberg. Thank you so much.
Catherine, thank you very much. Everybody hear me okay? That's great. Well, I've been trying to figure out how to talk about legacy, and it's something most of us don't even think about until about this age, right? I mean, when you're a teenager, you're bulletproof. You don't worry about dying. You don't worry about not living because you're going to live forever. Well, obviously, that's not the case for us. And so at some point in our life, we start to think about the future. We start to think about how we want to be remembered, and that's important, you know. But it's more important for us to really take control of life. I spent 50 years in television doing stories on people, stories that I thought people would enjoy because these people that we put on television did have a legacy. And I want to take you on the road with me for just a minute or two. And we're going to go up to Auburn, Kansas. It's early in the morning, and I'm stopping at this big 2-story frame farmhouse that's on the edge of Auburn, Kansas. Now, it has white paint, but that paint is peeling. The paint is also the color of the morning sun, that orange color. And it's early. It's really early. I had to get up really early to get up there. I'm knocking on the door. And as I knock on the door, I hear this bark. And it sounds like a dog about this big is behind that door. Frida Keck opens the door. And when she looked at me, she smiled. And she had one of those smiles that when she smiled, it was like the sun coming out from behind a cloud. Warm, friendly. And when she smiled, you felt like you'd known her forever. You've met those people before. Just so warm and friendly. And as she opens that door, I look down and I see that dog. Is it that big dog? No, it's one of those little yappy dogs that will drive you nuts. But it's okay. That was her dog, and that was her child, basically. Standing in her little entryway on this old farmhouse that's been on the edge of Auburn, Kansas forever. And as she invites me in, she takes me into the old farmer's kitchen. And she seats me at this table. It's one of those old oak tables that every grandma in the world has had. And it has those big oak carved high back chairs, you know. My grandma had one. And so I'm seated at the table now. And she is one of those women who has to have food and a beverage for a stranger. So she's made a cup of coffee for me. And she has fixed a little roll, kind of a little Danish type. And as I'm seated at the table, The sun is coming through a window and it's making a big circular spot right in the center of that table. And the sun is shining down, it's nice and warm, it's like a Norman Rockwell picture. And in the center of that spot, in the center of that table, is this huge cat. Probably an 18-pounder, I guess. Well, once Frida had served me the coffee and the little roll, I could tell that I was now the cat's best friend. Because the cat gets up, stretches, you know how those cats are, they go, oh, that feels so good. Little tail goes up in the air, and then proceeds to come right next to me, and seats herself right next to me and watches me eat. So that's where we are. Frida is an incredibly interesting woman who nobody knew about. There it is, it's back, okay. So, Frida is sitting at the table, and we have a wonderful conversation. We just talk about life a little bit. And again, she's one of those women that once I have finished my little pastry and my coffee, much to the consternation of the cat, she can't leave a dish unwashed. So she walks over, she grabs the plate and the saucer, and she walks over to this little single unit porcelain sink, an old farmer's type of sink. Right above the sink is this window where you can look out over the property. And as she starts to oh, there's Mark with me this morning. As she starts to wash the dishes, she is looking out the window. Now, I can look out the window, and here's what I see. Over here is the barn, big two-story barn. The second floor has now dropped down. It needs work, but it's there. You can see the red paint on it. That was a long time ago. Over here on this side was a pen. And that's where they kept a little pony. And right in front of that window is this swing set. And it's the exact same swing set that I had in my backyard. Hello? The exact swing set that I had in my backyard, and I'm guessing you did too. It had 2 swings in it, and it had a little teeter-totter. The 3 things here. It was painted red, white, and green. Yeah, now you remember it, right? You had it in your backyard. Well, the Kansas wind has come up, and it is moving one of those swings. The other swing is broken. It won't move. But the wind is moving one of those swings, and every time it swings back and forth, it squeaks, squeak, squeak, squeak. That's what I see when I look out the window. When Frida looks out the window, it's something else. Frida is now looking out the window and washing those dishes, and she is thinking about her life. And this happens to me a lot when I do these stories. People go off and start thinking about other things, which is great, which is wonderful. And she is looking at the barn as she looks out the window, and she is hearing children playing in the hayloft in that old barn. She's seeing the kids ride the pony in that pen over there. And she's hearing the laughter of the children who are on the swing now as the Kansas wind continues to move that swing. Squeak, squeak, squeak. Why is this important? Frida Keck, and when her husband was alive, he too, they raised 60 children over the course of time, over the course of the decades. These were children who needed love. These were children who had nowhere else to go. Frida took them all in. Some they'd have for a few weeks, some for a few months, some a few years. 60 children in this old farmhouse. So, she's looking out that window now, and she's on that old swing, hearing the laughter of the kids, watching them ride the pony. Things that I don't see, things that are buried deep in her heart. And as in that old swing, she says, you know what? That old swing may be rusty, but my heart isn't. That is a great line. And it's a great line I could never write because I've never lived what Frida Keck has lived. She really saved the lives of those. Herself back down and we start to talk and she says, you know what, Larry? To this very day, each one of those 60 children still connect with me. At Christmas time, I get presents from them. And Thanksgiving, many of them will just drop by and we'll have this wonderful, incredible Thanksgiving dinner. She says, you know, can you believe that? Can you believe that? They still remember this old lady. I said, yeah, I can believe it. It was one of her kids he had fostered. Knows about this old 85-year-old woman in this house on the edge of Auburn, Kansas. Somebody needs to know about her. And I agreed, so that's when I went up and I did this story. That's her legacy. And it's a legacy that all of us can learn from. And that's why the Hatteberg's People series was so important to me. Because who I did the story on. And I think at this point in my career, I probably have a doctorate degree in life testing, a doctorate degree in life from everything that I have learned from all of these people, life lessons. And I remember Frida, and I see her in my mind just like she's standing next to me. She affected and touched and changed the lives of when those 60 children needed it the most. Those are the people who have a legacy. Those are the people who we should remember. Those are the people who should be on television because they're changing lives, one person at a time. Now, maybe our lives are not that dramatic. You know, we can't 60 children. I guarantee you that in every life that is in this room, you can make a difference. You do have a legacy. Now, I have made some mistakes in my life, particularly when I was young. My grandmother, born in the late 1800s, probably about 1875, she lived out on the prairie, and she raised 6 children in a 3-room house. Her husband died early, and she was alone, and she lived out in the middle of nowhere. No running water, no indoor toilets. My mother was raised, and 5 other siblings. She died when I was 18 years old, my first year in college. And you know what? Not one time did I sit down with a woman and ask her about testing. Not one time did I ask her what was important to her. Not one time did I sit there and just become a listener so she could tell me what her life was like, because it was incredible. But as a kid, I didn't care. You know, when you're 18 years old, life is all about you. You don't care about other people. I missed one of the most important in my life, learning about this woman who raised the children in unbelievable conditions, had no money, never had a dime. My mother tells me that at Christmas time, if she got an orange, that was Christmas for her and her brothers and sisters. But I didn't care. And I never heard her story. That was a terrible, terrible mistake. My guess is that most of us in this room have a similar story, you know, because we don't sit down and we just don't talk with people to learn about their lives, to learn about their legacy. And they're not going to come, was not going to come up to you, say, hey, son, sit here and listen. My grandma do that, you know. She was a very old, frail lady when I knew her, but she had a great story. And I wish I'd been older. I wish I'd been smarter, not just a dumb kid, because I lost that story, and I lost a lot of my heritage because I didn't care. Well, I do care now. Her son was an old bachelor farmer with her out on the prairie. Great guy, but he loved the prairie. And he took care of his mother until she died. He was sent to the war, World War II, at 28 years old. Him, I got to know later in life. It was perfect, just perfect. The problem is, people like me, when you're young, we don't listen. But my Uncle David had an incredible story. At 20 years old, was drafted into the Army for World War II. The other kids who were drafted called him Grandpa because he was 17, 18, 19-year-olds. He spent 3 years in Europe and Africa, wounded once, got a Purple Heart, and never came home in those 3 years. It wasn't the life of the military that we have today, where you go for 10, 11, maybe 12 months, and then you're rotated out. They didn't rotate him out in World War II. He served Patton. And he told me stories about Patton. He told me stories about what life was like. Stories that are painful. And when he died, he left me this. This is a little pack that he carried with him every day of the war in his duffel bag through Africa and Germany and France and all the other countries that he fought in. And it's a powerful little piece of memorabilia. I can't show it to you here, but there is a picture in there of his mother. The calendar here says 1942. And here are letters he received during his 3 years overseas. It is an incredible document. It's an incredible piece of my uncle's life. Him learning from my grandma. Him I listened to. Him I documented. One of the best things I ever did. The most money that man ever made in his life was $20,000. He was an old bachelor farmer. He had good times and he had bad times. When he came home from the war, he had met a girl. Before he left, he had a girl. Marry her when he got back. She lived in Wichita. He drove up from Dexter, Kansas to Wichita, knocked on her door, and she told him, I'm married. And he had been counting on her for 3 years. He left the house, never married again, ever. Stayed out on the old farm, out on the 160 acres of land, and loved it, and took care of his mother until she died. And then he just stayed out alone on the farm. These are great people. These are people whose stories should be told and should be remembered. And all of you have people like this in your life. And you're the same way. All of you in here have those stories that should be remembered. Now, question is, for many of us, how do we start a legacy, and how do we control that legacy for future generations? Most of you, I'm guessing, have I or some sort of used them. I'll tell you what my daughter does. She lives in Kansas City, and she has 3 children. She will take the iPhone, and she will take it, and she will put it on in the kitchen that she wants her daughter to have. And she puts the phone up, movie mode, and she records her making the cake or whatever it is that the recipe calls for. And she gives it to her daughter. She emails it to her daughter. You are seeing what was important to the woman, her daughter. And that's great. And everybody can do that. You know, you don't have to be a photojournalist like Greg back there. And Greg is one of the best. But she records these little moments in her life, and she's pretty tech savvy, and is giving it to her children on literally a daily basis. Well, you can do very similar things. You can record parts of your life, and you can record yourself talking about the life with this little iPhone. Now, there's one you must never do because it's just wrong. Never record video vertically, ever. Why? Because when you play it back, it will have big black bars on either side. And so if you play it back on your television or on your computer, you'll see these big black bars. That's because you're only using 1/3 of the power of the sensor of the camera. Anytime you shoot video, just move it horizontally like this. That's how you shoot video with an iPhone. Never, ever like this. Always just turn it to the left. And that'll be great. Now, you take that iPhone and you there and you start talking to it. You turn it on, put it in the movie mode, put it in record, and you start talking to it. And if you don't like what you said, you can fix it. But it's very important for you to put your life down on this, on the iPhone. And people say, well, I have an old VHS camera, I'll use that. No, don't. Do not do that. Your phone in your pocket is much more powerful than any VHS machine or any home videotape that you have now. So don't ever do that. The other thing is, all of the videotape that you have that you took of your kids with the VHS machine, it's going to go away. Testing, 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 testing. Video. Maybe. Okay. So we use videotape. Be yourself. Talk to location was. Talk to the people. If you can transfer to your computer, and put it on a little thumb drive or take it to that safety box, put it in that, and forget about it. Help when part of you will still be so important to do, and it's so easy to do. With my mother when she turned 90. My mom lived to be 97. I had both my daughters sit down with my mother and interview her. And here's the interesting thing. I thought I knew everything there was to know about my mother. You know what? I didn't. My mom told my daughters things I had never heard that I didn't know. And not just a couple of things. I mean, it poured out of her unbelievably. I mean, I was stunned at what I was listening to because this was a woman I'd never met, you know. And I think the reason is she could talk to the daughters easier than she could talk to her son. I don't know why that is, and I've seen that happen before. So if you want, you know, you could have a granddaughter, grandson there who's interested in you as a person and have them interview you. You know, that works too. So there's many ways to do this. The important thing is to get your life down on videotape. That's very, very important. So I hope you can do it. And I hope that we've been given a gift, really, with technology. And so in our pockets, we have these powerful devices. And we just have to use them in a smart way. And everyone in the room probably, if you have an iPhone or some type of phone, you can record for the future. And you can save your life and your legacy for the future. And that is so, so very important. I'm just checking the time here. I'm not going to take a picture. I want to tell you one more story of legacy. Again, it's early in the morning. I'm in the little town of Eskridge, Kansas. And I'm knocking on a door. You know, I knock on a ton of doors. I just forgot her name. I'm knocking on the door of Maisie DeVore. As I knock on the door, she quickly opens it. She's about 70 years old probably at that point. She quickly opens that door and she says to me and looks straight in my eye, "You're late." I said, "Yes, Maisie, I'm sorry. I got tied up in Wichita, got a late start. My apologies." And she said, "Well, come on, we got stuff to do." Okay, so I am now going through her house, and she has what I would term a shotgun house. Shotgun homes were popular in the New Orleans area because the name came from you could point a shotgun in the front and the bullet would go out the back door. It's a straight line. It's a long house, a narrow house. So I'm now in this house, and as I'm going in, and I have the camera and lights and tripod and stuff, and I'm looking around, because I'm a snoopy guy, and I look around at people's houses, and on my left, I see a big easy chair, and there's knitting in that chair, so I can tell that she's a knitter. And right in front of that easy chair is a big square picture window that she would sit and knit and look out. So now I'm coming close to the kitchen, and as we go through the kitchen, I am stunned at what is in her kitchen. The shelves are lined with little jars of jams and jellies that she has canned herself. And on each one of them there is a little piece of tape, and in her writing it says, "Strawberry jam, 25 cents. Grape jelly, 35 cents. And they're just piled everywhere in the counters here. It's incredible. Anyway, about this time I hear a back door slam, and she yells, "You coming?" "I'm coming, Maisie. I'm just slow and snoopy. So we go out the back door, and right next to her house is this little detached garage. So the car's not in the garage, it's right next to the garage. She says, come on, get in. Okay. So I get the camera in there and I get everything in it, and we start on the route that Maisie would go on every day in the little town of Eskridge, Kansas. First place we stop is Joe's place. Now, out on Joe's front porch, he has paper sacks of Pepsi cans, because he loves Pepsi. So he's got all these Pepsi cans out there. Maisie gets out, she grabs all those cans and she throws them in the back seat. And then we go to the next place. The next place we go is the local tavern. Well, the night before, they had a good night, because there are all of these plastic sacks out with hundreds of beer cans. I mean, loaded beer cans. Maisie jumps out of her car. She was a very spry woman. Jumps out and she takes all those beer cans and she puts them in the back seat, and then she opens up the trunk, stuffs them in the trunk, and then we go to the next place. And I'm starting to smell like beer and Pepsi. Anyway, she does this for about 3 hours in the town, picking up aluminum cans. In front of Maisie's house is a big 2-ton truck. Everyone in Eskridge, Kansas knew that if their air conditioner went out, or their hot water heater went out, broke, or they had old metal that they didn't want anymore, they could come by any time and dump it in the back of Maisie's big 2-ton truck. Once a month, Maisie would drive that truck to Topeka to the scrap metal dealer and get money. So, for 30 years, Maisie collected aluminum cans, sold jams and jellies, and collected scrap metal. And one day, she counted her money. She had well over $100,000. So what's Maisie going to do with that money? Is she going to take that money and fly to Hawaii and get a nice suite at the Ritz-Carlton there and enjoy the fruits of her labor? No, that's not what she decided to do. What Maisie decided to do was to give that $100,000 to the city of Eskridge, Kansas, for a swimming pool, because the kids had never had a swimming pool in that town. Well, it's a good thing. So, Maisie, now, or shortly thereafter, they decided to build the swimming pool across from Maisie's house on the old school property, so that Maisie could sit in her chair, look out that big picture window, and hear the kids and watch the kids frolicking, all because Maisie collected cans, sold jams and jellies, and made a lot of money over 30 years. Never told anybody what she was doing. Never said a word about it. She just did it. And she made a difference to this local community. She has an incredible legacy there. If you go to Eskridge, Kansas now, and if you go over to the swimming pool, there is a big sign, a U-shaped thing at the entrance, and it says Maisie's Swimming Pool. Now, here's the interesting thing to me. Maisie is not unique. The woman in Auburn, Kansas, who loved 60 children when they didn't have anybody else to love them, are not unique. These are people who are in every community working quietly and silently behind the scenes. They're not putting out a news release. They're not saying, hey, look at me, see how good I am. They don't tell anybody what they're doing. I find out because maybe a friend will say, hey, really ought to do a story on this person. And they're right. These people need to be recognized for what they do. But all of you do the same thing in different ways. You help people. You're there for friends. I don't know what your story is, but all of you have stories. And those are the things that we need to know about. Those are the things that your family needs to know about. And when you talk about your legacy, I think it's important for you, when you're recording your audio, to talk about what made you happy and what didn't make you happy. And I think this is the time in which you be honest. Because when people are looking at this, you're probably not going to be here, so it's not going to matter. But be honest. What were your disappointments? What were your great successes? What did you enjoy doing? What did you not enjoy doing? Now's the time to tell the truth. Because if you don't, the time has passed. So, living your legacy, and all of you are living your legacy right now. And that's important to put down. Now, if you don't want to record it, please write it down. If you say, I don't have a computer, that's okay. You've got a pen and a pad, and you can write it down. It's just so important to have that. I wish so much I had my grandmother's writings. I have her old Bible. And the things that are inside that are pressed in that Bible from, I think it's an 1850 Bible. The things that are pressed between the pages on that Bible are flowers. I would give anything to know why she saved those. What did they mean to her? Were they from a boyfriend? Were they just a favorite flower? Were they the first flower her children picked? Whatever it was, I want to know that story. And I never will, because I missed the moment in time, because I was a stupid kid. And so I don't want anybody else out here to be stupid like I was. So write it down. If you don't like video, if you don't want to be seen, okay. But write it down, because nobody's going to do it for you. You have to do it yourself. I think it would be great if my grandsons and granddaughter would come up to me and say, Grandpa, tell me your story. The odds of them doing that, 0. That's not going to happen. They're great kids, love them to death, but that's their kids. And I'm not going to be able to tell them my story. And you probably won't be either, unless you have an exceptional child in your life. But it's so easy. And you can be the author of your own legacy. I urge you to do it. Don't let too much time go by. We're on this earth for a moment. And when the moment's over, it's done. So write it down so we know what was important to you. What made you laugh, what made you cry, what your joys were, what your sadness was. And why you did what you did. Why you took the job that you did. Why you married the person that you married. All of that is important. Regrets, put those in, because we're human. We all have regrets. Put that down too, so the future generations can learn from you. And after you die, your relatives will keep learning, because you've written something important. You've given something important. And it's probably the greatest gift that you can give your family. We always want to give our family money. And we go, well, that's okay. Well, money will go away eventually. But what you can give them is the gift of yourself, the gift of a story. And it's a story that only you can write. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Wow, that was incredible. And Larry, would you like to stay up here and have a seat? Because we're going to do a Q&A in just a minute. We're going to do a little activity. Jillian Ambrose. Do you feel comfortable there? Jillian is handing out a little treat for everybody. It's not a cupcake or anything. So, and can we turn the front lights down, Randy? Oh, good. They're bringing them around. Well, I certainly thought of a lot of things during that, and I'm sure a lot of you did too. And we're going to just turn the front lights. Thank you. So I was thinking, well, that is Larry's legacy list, or part of Larry's legacy list. Does anyone watch Legacy List with Matt Paxton on PBS? It doesn't play very often here, but you can look it up online. And I got to meet him a couple of weeks ago. He started the show Hoarders. Does anybody watch that? Hoarders? Makes you feel a little bit better about your closet and your organization watching that show. Well, he has a new show. 3 seasons are done. The 4th season starts in January. It's called Legacy List with Matt Paxton. After doing Hoarders, he said, I want to do a positive story on aging. And he presented his new idea for a television show to 37 television stations, and they all turned him down. He said, what I want to do is I want to do a story about people's legacy list. What would you run into the house for if it was on fire? It probably wouldn't be something that had a lot of monetary value. It might be something like Uncle David's journal and Grandma's Bible. Those are the things that really tell a story and that you really might want to pass on for sure. The kids might not take the china, but maybe they will take Uncle David's journal if they know what it is. And so he calls that your legacy list. What is your legacy list? And that might be something that you could talk about over the holidays, over Thanksgiving. And what we talk about often is your legacy is people, your purpose, their purpose, and the possibilities that we have in our lives. These are bubbles. Everybody loves bubbles. We're going to try not to get the floor too wet, so everybody be careful if we get the floor wet. But we're going to open up these bubbles and we're going to have some fun, because life is about having fun. And if you'd like to stand with your bubbles or sit, Delno, get ready to take some pictures. I want you to think about these bubbles representing the people in your life, the purpose that they might have in the future that you can impact, the purpose that you have in your future now, and what you can do to really still create and grow a legacy and an impact and share your stories, all the possibilities that exist for you in your life and exist for your family members and your friends that you can impact. So that's what the bubbles are going to represent. So anyone that would like to twist the bubble top off and stand up, and let's take a shot at blowing the bubbles up into the air. And just think for a moment, all the times in your life you've blown bubbles. Just see if you can catch one of those possibilities, one of those bubbles with your wand, and hold on to it. Because we have so many possibilities in life and we can't chase them all. We have to pick and choose, grab what we can. All right. Thank you so much for playing with us. I love the idea of recording stories and to be yourself and just be calm and practice, and having an iPhone or a good phone that has the video possibility and recording the recipe. That was a great idea. So think about what some of your great ideas are, because when we open up for discussion, let's really share some of our ahas and our action items. And let's please welcome Greg Dane. He's going to come up here and take a seat next to Larry. And if you'd like to speak up here, you're welcome to too. Good there? Okay. So Greg didn't grow up here in Wichita, hasn't lived in Wichita, so he missed out on Larry Hatteberg's stories, Hatteberg's people. But welcome to Wichita, and thank you for joining Empowered Senior. And I know you have something interesting to share.
Thank you, Larry. I'm going to take a page out of Larry's book. I'm going to walk around primarily because I have a PhD in OCD and ADHD. If you guys can relate. I've asked 2 ladies in the audience today to pray for me because I'm extremely nervous, and I don't know why, because I talk for a living. One of my passions in life, I'm a student of longevity, how to live longer. If I could add a subtitle to our title today, it would be, I'm not dead yet. Because how many times do you have conversations with your adult children, they start asking you personal questions like, my son-in-law, for example, who's been my son-in-law for 14 years, asked me in the last year, have you got all your planning taken care of? And I said, Grant, what business is that of yours? I love him to death. He's like, I just want to make sure you've got Gina taken care of, my wife. And I think I love him, he's a great guy. But my comment is, I'm not dead yet, right? So, the key to longevity, if I said to you the word centenarian, who has the answer and the definition of centenarian? Yes, ma'am. Anybody?
Me? They're 100 years old.
Achieving 100 years of age. That's correct. In the United States today, there are over 70,000 centenarians. Did you guys know that? 70,000. Keeps the president busy. I'm going to share with you for a few minutes, and I brought some of my favorite books up here to talk about. There is a phrase in Japanese, and I'm going to set this up by saying to all the ladies, think about that time on the school ground when you were in elementary school, and those pesky little guys would come up and bug you. You may have had the thought, I wish that ikigai would leave me alone. Ikigai is the title of this book, The Japanese Secret to a Long and Happy Life. Ikigai means your reason for living. This book is about the blue zones across the globe. I'm sure some of you understand and know what I'm talking about when I refer to a blue zone. They are Okinawa, Japan, different provinces of Italy, France, Greece, and Costa Rica, and oddly enough, Loma Linda, California. And I'll tell you why Loma Linda is included in that in a minute. This is where the highest concentration of centenarians live in the world, Okinawa being the highest. There's 24 and a half centenarians for every 100,000 people living there. Okay? Now, oddly enough, I've met people in my travels. Yes, I do Medicare. It's not the sexiest subject in the world. I'd rather talk about longevity. But Okinawa, they don't have any trains there, so they're forced to walk or ride their bike, and they live and serve each other in community. All these blue zones share these common traits. They live and serve each other. There's also another Japanese phrase, and it says harahachibu. Harahachibu means that when they recognize that when they're 80% full, they stop eating. Right? My wife and I started adopting this technique. We eat on 9-inch plates. How many of you, besides myself, grew up when your mom would tell you, clean your plate, son, before you get up from the table? Well, I had to fight for that food with 2 older brothers, so I probably cleaned 2 or 3 plates. And that's the method we adopt in the United States. But these centenarians share a lot of things. They eat about 11 ounces of fresh vegetables every week, 3 servings of fruit, sweet potatoes. There's a little lime-like fruit in Okinawa, Japan that they eat a lot of and mix in their green tea that has powerful antioxidant powers. They average about 18,000 steps a day. Can you believe that? Now, I tested that yesterday, and I'm surprised I'm still standing here because I decided to do something really stupid. I didn't have any appointments until the afternoon yesterday, so I raked leaves from 7 a.m. to 11. And I looked at my Apple Watch after I finished. I had gotten 12,800 steps in and 7.7 miles walking back and forth. There was a technique developed years ago that these folks also adopt, and it's called the Pomodoro technique. Pomodoro is Italian for tomato. There was a Tuscan servant back in 1548 who came up with the phrase pomodoro, meaning tomato, and it was later called Pomodoro. But the Pomodoro technique is to take a kitchen timer and set it for 25 minutes. If you're at home working and you sit in front of the computer a lot like I do, set it for 25 minutes and get up and exercise for 5 minutes when the timer goes off. Or you can set it for 50 minutes and exercise 10 minutes. But some of the other things these folks share in common is that they enjoy life. They're happy and they're smiling all the time and serving each other. They're not sedentary, right? The reason why I mentioned the group in Loma Linda, California, they studied a group of Seventh-day Adventists. If there's any Seventh-day Adventists in the room, you have very strict diets, right? I have tried to live a very healthy life myself, but sometimes, if you're in that family of poor genetics, that'd be me, cancer and heart disease. February the 10th, I had open heart surgery. I've been long and lanky all my life, but heart disease caught up with me, and I tried my best to keep it at bay. But I tell everybody now I just had a complete overhaul under the hood. Hopefully everything's fixed. Only God knows that. But stay active, stay healthy. It's really about mind, body, and spirit. But Ikigai is probably available in paperback now. If you go to thriftbooks.com, you can probably get it for $5. The other book I'm going to reference, and it also has a compendium with it, cookbook, is called The China Study. The China Study is a father-son team. The dad's a PhD, the son is an MD. It is an ongoing study of people in the Far East and why they live as long as they live. They die of a lot of things, but they do not die of heart disease, right? Americans, we have an unusual diet. We eat everything we see, right? And I just spoke at Oxfordville a couple weeks ago, and I gave everyone in the room an assignment. I'm going to give you all the same assignment. Now, tell me the truth when I ask you this question. How many of you in the room love a good Chinese buffet? Okay, maybe half the room. The next time you go to a Chinese buffet, if you time it just right, I want you to try to identify the owners of the restaurant when they stop and break for lunch and watch what they eat. It's not the fried wonton. It's not the fried egg rolls. It's fresh vegetables and rice. That stuff on the buffet is for the American palate. It's not what they eat. They know what we love. Listen, I grew up in the South. Fried chicken was almost a must after church on Sundays, right? And I still have flashbacks of seeing the tub of Crisco in the fridge. And my dad's cornbread, and I used to say, Dad, how did you learn to make such good cornbread? He goes, well, when I was in World War II, I learned to cook because I had to pull KP duty to get my sergeant stripes back because I did something stupid. I won't go into that. He said the cook there said, Paul used bacon grease to put that nice crust on your cornbread, and he used a black iron skillet. Maybe that led to my heart disease. I don't know. I love the cornbread. But the China Study also has a cookbook to go with it. So I highly encourage you to copy that. I see someone shaking their head that they obviously read it. Yeah. The third book I'm going to reference for you has been out in print for several years. It's called The Daniel Plan. If you go back and read the book of Daniel, when Nebuchadnezzar captured Daniel and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, he said to his chief eunuch, make sure Daniel and his men eat the king's meat when I serve my mighty men, because I want them to be like my guys. You remember Daniel's response? It was basically, no thank you. Challenge us, we'll eat fresh fruits and vegetables and give us water, and in 10 days we'll be stronger than your men. And they were, right? So Rick Warren was a co-author of the Daniel Plan. And y'all, it's really simple. Eat what comes from the ground. There was a book written years ago by a doctor, his name was Don Colbert, and the title was, What Would Jesus Eat? And there was a line in the book I'll never forget that says this, if slaughterhouses had windows, we'd all be vegetarians. Think about that, right? The stuff we consume. Listen, I'm retired from the drug industry. I was a pharmaceutical rep for 20 years. What I'm fixing to tell you is the absolute truth. We Americans don't want to do, for some reason, what's necessary to age gracefully in a healthy fashion. We want a pill to fix it. I literally would have gone out of business had the patients done what they could have done, needed to do on their own, and stopped taking drugs. Do you know that when I used to watch pulmonologists give someone a diagnosis of COPD, you know what their first question was? Can I still smoke? I would literally see them in the parking lots with their oxygen on, taking a drag from a cigarette, and I'm just starting to count down 5, 4, they're gonna blow themselves up. You know, smoking a cigarette, taking a drag, and on their oxygen before they go into their appointment. But yeah, doctor, can I still smoke? I was sharing with Mindy earlier, my oldest brother is a retired cop. He's 73 years old. I just saw him at my middle brother's funeral. We just lost Phil. Sorry, a month ago. Ronnie was a cop in Memphis, Tennessee. He subscribed to what I call the Twinkie diet. He ate Twinkies and everything else that was bad for him, and I'm 6'5", he's barely 6 feet tall. He weighs 330 pounds. Both knees are shot. Heart disease like me. Pasty, complex. And his response to the doctor is, just give me a pill. He's a type 2 diabetic, and he can fix that if he just start walking, right? Literally, we want a quick fix. The vitamin and supplement business in this country is in the billions, not millions. You can turn on your TV when you get home, you'll probably see a supplement commercial. Now, I'm not anti-supplements. There's a few that I recommend. But getting back to leading a long, happy life, if you're up and active, you get 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night. God bless you if you can. If I get 6 to 6.5, it's a good night. I think my OCD wakes me up. It did this morning because I'm like, Catherine's having me speak and I've been shaking all morning, you know. So try to exercise at least 150 minutes a week. That's another recommendation. Get up and move. Like Larry, I'm going to tell you a quick story. In 2010, when I retired from the pharmaceutical industry, we chased our daughter and son-in-law to Denver, Colorado while he was in seminary. And I had helped start a long-term care division in my previous role in pharmaceuticals, so I wanted to find out what it was like to work in a senior living community. So I signed on as their sales director. We had independent living, assisted living, and memory care. And the two people I'm fixing to tell you about still are ever present in my mind. When I moved there, I got there first. My wife joined me about a month later as she was wrapping up things back in Tennessee. So they gave me the guest suite to live in for 3 weeks. My next door neighbor was Miss Barbara. In 2010, Miss Barbara was 91 years old. She was a retired reporter from the Denver Post. I promise you, every time I'd see Barbara going through the lobby, I'd say, Miss Barbara, where are you headed? And she would have her 60-something-year-old daughter in tow, and she'd say, we're going to Europe. 91. Had a gentleman there that was 91 years of age at the time that opened up a tire chain across the Midwest. Peerless Tires. The owner, I actually met him, he ran 4 miles a day at 91 years of age. And he was also a little, I don't know what the male term is for cougar, but he kept his little black book in the community. He hit on all the single women. I mean, he was a handsome little fellow, but so compare Miss Barbara to the gentleman I'm fixing to tell you about next, Stu. Stu was 72 years of age. He was a Marine. He had peripheral neuropathy in his feet. Also a diabetic. I promise you, every day Stu came into my office, the sky was falling. Picture that friend in your mind. We all have them. When you see them coming, you're like, Jesus, let this cup pass. Because you know that when you encounter them, everything that comes out of their mouth is going to be a Debbie Downer comment, right? Stu is that way. I'm not sure if Stu is still living or not. His eyesight was going. But I could look out across from my desk and see him in the wingback chair in our lobby every day, sedentary, worrying about everything. Right? I'm going to read a quote to you because something that I'm losing in my aging is my memory, because I can't remember stories. But I want to read you in quotes. I'm going to read you this quote from Albert Einstein. It says, a happy man is too satisfied with the present to dwell on the future. You and I cannot add one day to our lives by worrying about tomorrow. That comes from Matthew. We can't. There's nothing we control. Listen, I'm preaching to the choir because I was a worrywart for years. And when you're a drug rep for 20 years, you also become a hypochondriac, because I would come home and tell my wife, I've got that, I've got that, I've got that. And she's like, you need to chill out. You are too stressed out. But I'll close by saying this. Have fun, enjoy your life, because you're not dead yet. You've still got a life to live. It was reported that when George Burns turned 96 years of age, a reporter said, Mr. Burns, what does your doctor think about you smoking a cigar and drinking a martini every day? And he said, I don't know, my doctor's dead. So, take that for what it's worth. But enjoy your life. Don't dwell on the negative things. Have a great time. There's and speaking of your legacy, there's another book I read years ago, written by a financial planner, and the title was Die Broke. Die Broke. We're not here, I don't think, to create a legacy for our kids, to make them wealthy. They need to earn that. That's the way I grew up. But there was a line in his book that said, if you do proper planning and spend all your money while you're on this earth, if you do everything just right, your check will bounce to the mortician when you die. So, there you go. But thank you all. Y'all been a blast. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. All right, we're going to pass out surveys, because if you need to leave early, we'd still like a survey from you. And when you fill out the surveys with your suggestions for us and comments or requests, you can just leave your surveys on the table and we'll pick it up. But let's take some questions and comments. What are some of your ahas from today, or questions that you might have? Or do you have some action items, something you know you're going to take from this and put into action? And Brett, you want to put up the next slide? Connie?
I would just like to know if you would put those books, the title and authors on your website.
Absolutely. We'll put the books on our website and on our Facebook page. Who's on Facebook? Good, good. Because that's where you can keep track of your family a little bit. If you want to keep track of the youngest family members, you might need to be on what, Jillian? Instagram and TikTok.
Yeah.
TikTok, yeah. So, is LinkedIn still a thing? Yes, it is. All right. Carolyn, what is your aha from today, or question?
I'm so impressed with the stories that you tell, Mr. Hatteberg. I've seen you for many years. I watch you on Channel 8, and it reminds me, when you were talking, it reminds me of neighbors that I wished I would have taken more time with. We all have those moments where we think, gosh, I miss that. Yeah. So I do have an aunt that I took extra time to talk to her when she was in a nursing home. And I said, tell me about your childhood. And oh my goodness, did that open up a wealth of conversation. So, but we don't do that often enough.
Thank you. Well, and we've talked about this before, that when people are gone, sometimes many decades later, you think, oh, I wish I'd have known more about this or asked about this. And so if we can leave clues for younger generations so they don't have to wonder and have those regrets that we've left them something, I think that's really great. And these could be really fun activities too over Thanksgiving and holidays. And maybe you can encourage kids to be interviewed, or interview the kids. That might be a riot, good way to get some conversation going. Who else has a question or comment? Be right back there, Alex.
My dad kind of did the same thing that you were speaking of, Larry. My dad was a prisoner in World War II for about 8 months,
And when he came back, there were years and years and years, he spoke nothing of any of that. But it wasn't until after he had retired and became active with the Wichita POW group here in Wichita, that as the men he was with, they all started kind of talking, and Dad opened up. And about 10 years before he passed away, he started gathering everything that he had left over. I mean, some letters and cards and the announcement that my mom got when he was, missing in action. And he put all that together in a booklet form for just us. Then years later, I was approached by a gentleman who was writing a book about the 491st Bomb Group, and I gave him some of Dad's information, thinking my dad would get a little blurb. He did a 3-page little chapter on just Dad, and I thought, wow. But those were things I would never have known had he not discussed them with his friends and then began talking about them with us. So I have been thinking about doing this for my grandkids, as far as putting down things that I liked growing up and doing things, but I haven't started. So, you're kind of putting me on the spot, like, don't wait. I enjoyed your talk, and you, Greg, with you as well. My son's a pharmacist, so he's kind of echoed a lot of what you're saying.
Thank you, Judy. Our attorney in the room, Alex, thank you for being here.
So I just wanted to say, I'm all about radical honesty. So who listened to Larry's stories and thought, wow, those are incredible, but I'm not that impressive. I'm that way. Who here thought, well, that's good advice for other people, but I don't have anything interesting in my life that I need to record for myself. I should see some hands up, because otherwise I know people are lying. I deal with the families of people who have died. And there's not been a single person that I've dealt with who has been neutral about whoever has passed, especially if it's a parent. They've never been like, yeah, I knew everything about them. We're good. They've always either had strong positive emotions about who that person was and what they've done for them, or strong negative emotions. Okay, there's no one in your life that doesn't really care about you. Everyone cares. We're just not equipped to show it. So your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, they want to know about you. They just don't know it yet themselves. So take that time to make a video. And guess what? You're gonna feel stupid doing it. I promise. But you have to lie to yourself. Now I'm telling you to do the opposite of what I said, which is an attorney special. Lie to yourself and tell yourself that it looks good, that you look good, that you sound good, and that it's gonna work. Because as you do that, you're gonna get more comfortable with it. And as you get more comfortable with it, the more you're gonna feel comfortable sharing. And people who have those, who have mementos, who have journals, who have those things, I bill by the hour, right? So you don't wanna tell me things that maybe aren't necessary. When people leave those things behind, when people have left a legacy, I hear about it. And when that's not done, I hear about that as well, because their family members have regrets. Man, I wish that I had talked to my dad about, whatever it was in his life. Or I wish that my mom had kept a journal of the things that she'd done. So don't leave your family members wanting more and there's not that opportunity. Because, we only get one shot at it. So take advantage of the technology that we have. Take advantage of having some extra free time in your life and spend it sharing the stories that you haven't shared before, because people will appreciate it. Whether they know it now or not, they will.
Beautifully said. And I would take advantage of having an attorney in the room. So when we call it quits, you can tackle him maybe if he's still here back here and ask him some questions, or his table is there. So thank you very much for sharing that. And actually, no, you're an attorney. I think that was good advice about being on camera. Jillian and I did 4 mother-daughter trips. Jill, come up here for a second. We did 4 mother-daughter trips when she was 15, 16, 17, 18. How we met Delno, our famous actor who plays photographer. He was recommended as a coach for her competing for acting and different things. And what we would do as volunteers is we would give the children pep talks, because there were children of all ages that were auditioning for talent managers and casting agents and all kinds of really interesting people. And some of the kids would get so nervous that they just couldn't do it. And so we suggested different tips and tricks to shake off the nerves, run up and down the hallway of the cruise ship. It was on a cruise ship. And different things they could do to kind of shake off that nervous energy. What I found in my career in sales and being in front of a camera sometimes is you just make yourself do it and think about it. It's not about me, it's not for me, it's about the people that I'm going to help, it's about the story I'm going to share. And so if you're super nervous, it could be because you're thinking about it way too hard. I kind of regret walking down the aisle for our wedding, not that part, but I regret that I was hysterically crying. I just was so nervous and overcome by the moment, which I guess is kind of neat, but I wish I could have had a little composure. And so anyway, I just say that sometimes you think, okay, it's showtime, I'm gonna do it anyway. Just take a breath and do it anyway. Do you have any tips for that, being on camera or?
Yeah, the best thing that you could possibly do is realize that a lot of people have the same struggle and laugh at yourself. So I still struggle. I'm in real estate and I do lots of videos, and I still record 11 different ones, and I'm like, ugh, I hate that one, I hate that one, I hate that one. And recently I have to take my own advice every now and then and think back to those days, and the one that I messed up, usually my face is kind of funny right afterwards when I realize that I said something wrong or, mispronounced something. Usually those are the ones that people like the most, because we watch TV and we see the rehearsed product, and that's cool and that's great, but who likes the blooper reels at the end of movies? That's sometimes the best part. People want to see humans talking, and human flaw is pretty awesome if you ask me. So start dancing, make a funny face, make yourself laugh, and don't take yourself too seriously, because if you take yourself too seriously, it's a good way to cut out any of the fun.
Great tip, Jillian. And I think humor is a good default anyway. And when you're having a fierce conversation, or you're having, some kind of challenge, if you can go to humor rather than anger or fear or something and just have a little laugh. But that's so true, it's just to have fun with it. You should have seen the three of us, Terry holding a camera, and Mindy Cook and Mindy East and I trying to make this video that we didn't get running today, but we'll play it on Facebook. And again, that video was kind of advertising tomorrow. We're doing from noon to 5 at the Thorne Building, a Veterans Day event where we're going to talk about this trip to Paris and Normandy with a presentation at 1 o'clock and 3 o'clock. And so Mindy, could you stand up for a second? If you have questions, Mindy Cook, that's our travel agent. And Mindy East, stand up, stand up. Mindy and Mindy, if you have questions about the trip, talk to them afterwards. Okay, thanks ladies. All right, good.
Okay, you're talking about laughing. Made me think of something I did last Saturday. I was at the Butler Community College football game in El Dorado. It was pretty cold out. Butler won, did a good job. Well, at the end of the game, they start playing Celebrate Good Time Come On, that song with Lionel Richie, and I thought, I just feel like dancing. So I looked at my 29-year-old daughter with me. I said, shoot a little video of me. And I'm standing up. I'm glad I didn't fall, but I'm literally standing on one of the bleachers, which I still look back and think, wow, I was really daring. But for about 10 seconds, I'm dancing and I'm singing. And then finally I just did okay, that's enough. Anyway, I sent that around to my kids. And one of my sons said, Mom, whenever I see that, that just makes me laugh. But that was one thing I wanted to share. The other is, Larry, thank you for reminding us that anything recorded on audio or videotape is going to eventually go away. And it reminded me when I was pregnant with with my 4 children. Each time I would interview one of the, would have been one of my grandmas or one of my husband's grandmas. Anyway, I have a news reporting background as well, and I just love to ask questions. So I recorded on audio tape, cassette. I'm going to go back and find those, and I'm going to record them on my phone right now, and then I can put them on flash drive. That should work. I mean, that will go back a couple of generations, but I'm going to do that. So thank you for that idea to get a move on.
Great idea. Larry, I wanted you to share your love of modern technology and things and how you stay up with all the new stuff. Can you share a little bit about that?
Well, I love the new technology that's out there, and I know a lot of people don't. I'm one that does. And the reason is that I wanted to keep active after I retired. And when I left Cake, it's not that I retired. I told them I just didn't want to be there anymore. 51 years is long enough to do it. And so you cannot go down to the donut shop every day and have donuts and coffee with the guys. That, for me, would be horrible. So what I try to do is to be involved in all the new technology. And right now I'm delving deep into artificial intelligence and how it works for both still photography and video photography. And it is stunning what's happening. I feel like I'm living in a different universe when I delve into that. It keeps me occupied. It keeps me fascinated. A few days ago, I was up in the Flint Hills shooting, and a coyote followed me. I had never been that close to them. Normally, they're half a mile away. They don't want to have any human interaction. This guy was curious. And I got some great, wonderful shots of him. And that, to me, is so satisfying as I age, because I'm learning. And the other advice I have for you guys is do not stop learning. Because we get older doesn't mean anything. It just means that our interests might change, but we have to keep learning. We have to keep growing as an individual. Don't sit in the easy chair. One other thing that I forgot to tell you, that I always promised myself I would talk to any group who would listen. In 2017, I went to the doctor for a routine checkup, and I was fine. I was Herculean. I could do anything. And 30 minutes after I finished the stress test at the doctor's office, the doctor called me and said, "Larry, I have good news and bad news. Bad news is you're going to die. Good news is I can fix it. Like Greg, I have open heart surgery. Nothing wrong with my heart, but the plumbing going into the heart was all screwed up. And I had 7 bypasses. 7. The surgeon told me he had only done one other 7. But since that time, and I'm fine, I do everything, but since that time, I spend 1 hour every day at the Y, either on the track or lifting weights. It's boring. I hate it. I hate it. But I put on my headset and I put on books. And I listen to books while I'm exercising and walking. And I spend a lot of time walking. But I'm there every day, and if for some reason I can't be there, I feel it, both physically and mentally, that I have failed myself for not being there. But what I'm saying is, heart disease, for example, we're all in that area, it can sneak up on you. I had 0 symptoms, had no idea anything was wrong. So get a checkup now and then. Make sure you get that stress test, which is so important. And that's really what I wanted to do. And then to keep that exercise going, because if you don't exercise it all comes back, and you shorten your life. And is it fun? No, I don't have a great time, but it feels good. That's the key for me.
Very good, thank you. It always makes me feel bad when people are selling diet products and they'll say, oh, and you don't have to exercise. Because I'm telling you, exercise is so important, and it's not about weight loss, it's about feeling good and keeping your body working. And anyone, it makes you happy, except for Larry, doesn't make Larry happy, except he's happy about how he feels. But anyway, yeah, exercise is a good thing, and you get in the habit of it, and then your body does crave it. Anyone that works in the senior industry knows that once someone sits down and becomes sedentary, that's it. You don't recover from that. So if you sit around too much, or you know someone that sits around too much, it's not going in a good direction. And we don't usually just magically float away. There's a lot of pain, misery attached to letting yourself go like that. And so you want to stay active and have some fun. Play pickleball.
Hey everybody, I just wanted to mention that Channel 8 has shows that you will want to watch. Tonight at 7 o'clock will be Hatteberg's People with Larry and Susan Peters. And Larry knows that it's not rerunning. These are Hatteberg's People refreshed with the where are they now kind of spin to the story. And it's super interesting tonight at 7. Tomorrow night, Empowering Seniors is on, Catherine's show, that's at 8. And then Friday night, Mindy's show, Thursday night, the 17th. Yeah, we're looking for the 17th. We've got a brand new show playing on the 17th, Ageless Enthusiasm, that Mindy East is a host of. So 3 great shows. If you want those dates again real fast, tonight at 7, that's Hatteberg's People. Tomorrow night at 8:30, that's Catherine's show, Empowering Seniors. And then on the 17th, we've got Ageless Enthusiasm. So we are 100% dialed into all of these topics and can't wait for you to watch the shows.
Great, and Susan Peters has a wonderful new show called The Family Dinner Table. Who's watched that so far? And Terry is starring on the next one. She's talking about a legacy recipe that's really yummy, so you'll have to tune into that. All right, we have time for another last word or two. Good, we've got some people that would like to talk. I have something. You're good.
I have something I really want to share because it fits in with what Larry has been talking about legacy. My daughter's best friend came to me recently. My daughter had her 61st birthday last year, and her best friend and I are now collaborating on a surprise gift for her for next year. Her daughter is a techie. I am not a techie. Her daughter is very good with photographs. I am not. Her daughter found somewhere on the internet a website called Storyworth, STORYWORTH, all one word. And she is sending me questions, and I am sending her answers. And she will put together a printed book for my daughter. I've gone through, I'm going to be moving soon, so I'm sorting through stuff anyway. And I've gone through all my baby pictures, and I'm sending her some baby pictures. The friend told me last week that the next batch of questions will be focusing on my high school years. Well, I can remember my high school years a lot better than my baby years and my elementary school years. So we will go through my life for this year, and I wanted to get that out for everybody because you probably have somebody in your family, your acquaintance, who is a techie, who can help you with this.
Very good. Great addition. Okay. Oh.
I've done this. Over the years, I've done many of these videos, the legacy one type things. And the different ones we've done is, like we did one, the lady I think was 87 when she started, and she wasn't in it. It was her voice the entire time. And we just put pictures and like landscape of Kansas because she lived on a farm. Well, we're still waiting because she's like 95 now. So it's supposed to play at her funeral at some point. And the other ones we've done are it was
the two parents, one had stage 4 cancer, and then the kids just sat there in the living room and talked for like an hour and a half. And they had all the questions, they went online, and you can print them off, legacy questions, and it just goes through, you ask question, 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 and it just goes through all different ones. And it was really, the interesting thing about the one that we did with the family was that one of the sons couldn't come because he had a conflict of interest or something. And by the end, they were so sad because he wasn't able to hear about the whole story. But luckily they were, because they have it all on tape now. So lots of different ways you can approach these things.
That is wonderful. So you could hire somebody to help you do it as well. And I think printing off the legacy questions is a great idea. Okay. Anybody else? All right, I think we're good. If you would fill out the surveys, that'd be great. Brady, could you turn to the last slide? Next month is going to be awesome. We're going to be talking about holidays and some serious things, but also some really great ideas. Holiday revelations, stressors, and life-changing decisions. A lot of things happen over the Christmas holidays, so we're going to get prepared for it. So be here next month. And thank you so much for being here today. It was our pleasure to have you join us, and I'd love for you to go out in the garden and take a look. I thought it was going to be raining. It's not, so maybe you can still get out there and take a look. That's part of your free admission. Thanks so much, and have a great Thanksgiving.